The WrestleMania main event is a coveted prize. Think of CM Punk. It was on his must-do list for years. He needed that spot. I imagine he will get it before all is said and done, as he should, and I can see why he'd expect it. As you're about to see, sometimes WWE has had some crazy chats, even if it's just behind the scenes. So I am Simon Miller, and yep, let's enter the multiverse of WrestleMania closes. Number 10, Brock Lesnar versus Austin Theory. Stone Cold Steve Austin main evented night 1 of WrestleMania 38. If you look at the lay of the land, another Austin technically could have been on the same spot on the Sunday. It was when Vince McMahon was obsessed with a giant egg and roped in Mr. Theory to be part of that. So when we found out the Elimination Chamber match in 2022 was for the WWE title, Austin was in it. He now had his chance. He made it to the final 2 there as well, but of course the other guy was Brock Lesnar, so we all knew the deal. He was gonna kill everybody, and that's what he did. Fans then realized the Mania main event was gonna be Roman Reigns versus Brock round 789, but hey, for a few minutes Austin Theory had a chance, and again, McMahon had made it clear he was his guy, just never really panned out. Number 9, Kurt Angle versus Steve Austin. Everything was perfect at WrestleMania 17, and as such, we got one of the best main events ever. Steve Austin versus The Rock. It was their second time in this position, and it's often considered a true highlight. 6 weeks before this night, though, things didn't look so easy. Kurt Angle was the WWE champion just a year after his debut, and man was he getting pushed. Remember that 6-man Hell in a Cell match at Armageddon? Everybody in there now was in that thing, and it was Kurt who won it. That was huge. Angle also defeated Triple H in January, so people were asking what was going to happen at WrestleMania, and then in walked The Rock. As we would see in later years, Angle versus Austin would have been fire as the last match at Mania, but at the same time, it wasn't what fans wanted to see. Another clash between the Great One and the Rattlesnake was clearly the choice. Therefore, Rocky defeated Kurt at No Way Out 2001, but look at this. He lost at the Show of Shows, and as we know, he was gone again soon after. Was back in Hollywood, and who was Austin's first feud? Kurt Angle. So we were closer than we think, but yeah, nobody was anywhere near The Rock's star power. He was the next level. Number 8, The Miz versus Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre was the WWE champion during the pandemic, and a lot of his defenses were nuts. Remember when he lost the belt to Randy Orton just to win it back a few weeks later? It was basically like we were doing whatever we could to keep interest up as the world stopped working. The biggest shock of these is when we were just weeks away from WrestleMania 37, and yep, Drew lost his title again. Damn it. It was after McIntyre got leveled by Bobby Lashley when The Miz scooted in to cash in his Money in the Bank briefcase. And this Mother Hubbard was successful too. WWE then made it seem like this was the plan for the rainiest Mania in history. Drew versus Miz. Wouldn't have been that bad, but it was so random. The way The Miz got here was bonkers. Instead, of course, he was just a transitional champion as Lashley turned on him to win the belts, and we got McIntyre versus Bobby instead, and they didn't in front of a giant pirate ship. It still felt like this was done so the Scottish Warrior could finally win the championship in front of people, but nope, he lost at WrestleMania. 2021 was totally insane. Number 7, Ricochet versus Drew McIntyre. Super Showdown 2020, totally off the wall. Now there was actually a sort of what-if moment during this because Goldberg did actually defeat Bray Wyatt to head to WrestleMania as the champion. And due to that being a huge surprise, anything was now possible. That's when we switched to the other big match on the pay-per-view, because yep, as Ricochet had helped Drew kick Brock Lesnar out of the Royal Rumble, he got his title shot in Saudi Arabia. Now most of Lesnar's iconic scraps have been against smaller opponents, which is when WWE pulled a fast one again. It's no wonder Ricochet wanted to try past as new when his WWE contract came to an end in 2024, because here, the man was killed. Like a Daniel Bryan or an AJ Styles, Ricky was squashed by the Beast. It was during a time where fans were sort of done with Brock though, so McIntyre versus Ricochet at Mania wasn't the worst idea. I mean, WWE would never have pulled that trigger, but again, Ricochet did have support behind the scenes. At least one of them would have asked the question. May as well have kissed a wall for all the good that did, but still, the pathway was there. We were just never going to take it. Ricochet then lost in 90 seconds. Number 6, Mustafa Ali versus Daniel Bryan. So this one actually seemed like it was on the books. And it's sort of bittersweet that we didn't do it. Because let's start at the start. Mustafa Ali was meant to be in the 2019 Elimination Chamber. Just weeks before he suffered an injury, however, which meant his opportunity was taken away. Talk about a sliding doors moment. And the rumors have always been, thanks to Daniel Bryan, Ali was his chosen opponent for WrestleMania, and now this had happened, so yeah, it was off the table, and that sucks. Of course, the replacement for Ali was Kofi Kingston, and we all know what went down there. Kofi Mania became a real thing, and seeing Kingston become the WWE Champion at Mania ranks right up there. It was wonderful. The Road Dogg Jesse James on his podcast insinuated that Mustafa versus Bryan was most definitely the idea before we had to pivot. So I suppose when you look at the situation, it was the best of a bad one. Kofi deserved all of this. It's just such a shame we didn't go back to Ali when he was good to go. He at least should have been given a shot. The dude was totally ready. Number 5, Scott Steiner versus Booker T. This one isn't as mad as you first think. Scott Steiner and Booker T was one of the matches on the last ever WCW Nitro. The WrestleMania we're talking about happened in 2003, just 2 years removed from WCW dying. So sure, you could have sold this. I think WWE were keen when they signed Scotty in 2002, but after he debuted at the Survivor Series, yeah, this wasn't the big Papa Pump we remembered. His foot injury had totally wrecked him. Therefore, even though we did launch right into Steiner versus Triple H for the World Heavyweight Championship and hinted this would be back and forth, it was not. Scott's pain was clear, and after 2 matches and the game whooping his ass, we were done. It is a shame because had Steiner won and WWE really leaned into World Championship Wrestling, Goldberg was coming in 2003, and you could have run that back with Bill winning the old WCW title. Kevin Nash and Scott Hall were around at this point too. I mean, we are in fantasy booking territory now, but still. Would have been way more interesting than what we actually got. Booker T still got to the world title match at WrestleMania, but we all remember this. Triple H hit him with the death pedigree and pinned him after about 78 hours. It was not well done. Number 4, Rey Mysterio versus Edge versus John Cena. A month before WrestleMania 25, WWE flipped the entire world title scene on its head. For Edge and John Cena walked in with the titles to the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view, but Triple H and Edge again left with them. That's because the Rated R Superstar arrived with the WWE belt, but left with the World Heavyweight title. Totally mad. This is because Edge lost his first trinket in the Elimination Chamber before he became the ultimate opportunist and snuck into the second chamber match and won. When I turned around, this dude even pinned John Cena. There was also beef with Rey Mysterio as he was the final guy in that steel cage, so he had every right to be mad too. If it wasn't for stupid Edge, he'd be the champ. By this stage, Mysterio walking into Mania as the guy wouldn't have been too crazy either, and even then. The triple threat we got instead was the Big Show, because he was apparently sleeping with Vicky Guerrero. Ray had a way better case. At least he went on to win the Intercontinental title. At one point, Edge vs. Randy Orton was also on the card, so remember, WWE has always been crazy with their last-minute changings, even before Wrestle-Flippin' Number 3, Cactus Jack vs. The Big Show. So The Big Show technically won the 2000 Royal Rumble. When he threw the Rock out, both of the Great One's feet hit the floor. That was a mistake, but still, once you saw it, you couldn't unsee it. WWE then lent into this, which meant we got that crazy 4-way match at Mania 2000, but on paper, you had a different direction entirely. This is because Mick Foley had transformed into Cactus Jack to face Triple H for the title, as he promised to retire if he lost. Which is what did happen at No Way Out. Whoops. Now he came back for Mania anyway, but it meant for a few weeks before all of this, WWE was pretending that the Big Show was going to defeat Rocky, and Cactus wasn't done, which would have resulted in the Jack versus the Giant. Not even sure the World Wrestling Federation could have got away with that one. Triple H and The Rock were too big as stars. It is not totally insane though, as it was meant to be the game versus the People's Champion, but Vince McMahon held that off till the following month because he wanted to do this 4-way instead. And McMahon in every corner. And trust me, nobody actually wanted that. It was really silly. Number 2, Jerry Lawler versus John Cena. So we are getting even dumber now, but let's face it, WWE was being ridiculous when we set up this madness in the first place. But at the 2011 Elimination Chamber, a 63-year-old Jerry Lawler did indeed face The Miz for the WWE title. What a world. While the King had held the AWA Southern Heavyweight Gold 58 times, the WWE belt had eluded him, so maybe he felt like he needed to right this wrong. Of course, this was part of the even more absurd feud with Michael Cole, but hey, fans on the night loved this. That is the point of sports entertainment. As Michael kept getting involved, this was all part of the building, and let's not forget that here. Lawler almost won. If it wasn't for The Miz getting his foot on the ropes, Jerry would have been the champ. And then what do we do? Does The Rock still get involved at WrestleMania 27? Does John Cena even want to do this? Because that's what we were teasing here, my friends. And it was absolutely ludicrous. Number 1, Santino Marella versus Sheamus. We talk about this a lot because at the Elimination Chamber 2012, Santino Marella should have won the world title in the big steel cage. This was only because the fans were going totally nuts when it got down to him versus Daniel Bryan, but it is a great point. If Santino had have done this, he would have moved on to WrestleMania to face Sheamus. As much as I love Marella, that does feel a little bit like the wrong way to go. Now, I suppose we did Kofi Mania not long after this, but think of what we'd lose. You do not get the 18-second match between Sheamus and Bryan, although Santino definitely would have suffered the same fate, and without that, maybe the Yes movement doesn't start. Nobody was thinking about that a few weeks beforehand, and again, the audience bit so hard on the Cobra near fall, they most definitely wanted it. Instead, Marella was part of the Team Johnny versus Team Teddy match at Mania to see how the general manager situation would play out. That was just a little bit weird. Know of any other potential WWE WrestleMania main events we could have gotten depending on the story? Please do let me know in the comments below before you like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Also, click the video on the screen for another list about WWE featuring me, the bald idiot, but otherwise, my friends, I appreciate you, and I will talk to you again soon.